just the other day, I was like, kids in high school, that's, just seems like it popped up on us.
Yeah.
I can't imagine them being in college, but.
You're live, folks.
Great. Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order on August 19th at 6:30 in the Buck Foreman conference room. We will start with a roll call. So Kristen Furtak.
Sean Manning.
Warren Brees.
Ken Woodward.
Dave Murphy.
Great. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any opposed? Motion carried. Make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 17th meeting.
So moved.
So now we will just quickly touch base on the board presentation that we hosted on June 26th. So myself, Kristen Furtak, and Ken Woodward presented to the town. Ken, if you want to kind of just start off, I'll piggyback on your thoughts of how that presentation went.
Sure, Kristen started off and introduced the whole thing and how it went, and I talked too much and it went 20 minutes over. So, no, I think that they were receptive, to the findings, and look forward to getting the report. There weren't a whole lot of questions because it was a lot of information dump at that moment. So, but the meeting went well, I thought, and we gave them everything we had. So,
Yep. Yeah, it was. I mean, there was probably what, 6-10 folks for the
Yeah.
town
Yeah.
there.
yeah, we even mentioned the fact of the, I keep calling it the net zero, reality of, the slap in the face that your property isn't worth much when you have a building on it that costs more to demo than your property's worth.
Yeah.
Unless you were to do some serious density with multifamily housing, and that's an option. But, so, yeah, we gave them a summary overview, and it went well.
Yeah, we did dump a lot of information on them, but I think it was understood, and it was unfortunate there wasn't any questions, but that's a good thing.
Let's see, we have 2 members not here?
One,
And-
Angela.
Well, what about,
Brian Walsh.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
is he on? He's not,
No.
oh, he
No,
isn't?
I think
Okay.
he's might be traveling or something.
Okay. So to put you on the spot, Dave and Sean, was there any feedback or anything that we could have shared, or?
No, I think everybody was receptive to the report. They understood that there was a lot of time put into this committee, that we're going to leave the town with hopefully some options when the time comes, and that we took the time and the due diligence to reach out with certain people that come across these sort of things. And I think we did a really good job overall as a committee, and I think you two did a really outstanding job with the presentation. And I think if we just, it's up to, we hand this off, and hopefully we can get it to where it needs to go, so people understand when they go to the, in November to vote, that yes, there is options out there. Our charge wasn't to make a decision on what's gonna be done, but we came up with, there are options that the town could take in the future.
Any other thoughts? Okay. So moving on to our next agenda item, really is just to discuss the final report. So you all received a draft last evening. Sorry for the delay on that, but it was just so if anybody had time to actually review it before tonight to offer any comments. We can flip through it. Obviously, it's up on the screen. I mean, a simple cover. I think that there's nothing necessarily there. Obviously, when we're done, we'll take off the draft.
Right.
Next page. Is that you?
Okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to give you.
It's above his pay
There you
grade.
go.
You're good.
So really just the table of contents, so the committee members, goals and objectives, schedule, resource connections, scenario matrices, discussion points, and conclusion. And then I included, it's not necessarily in this draft because it was an additional 20 pages, were all of the meeting minutes as an appendix. Any comments on that page? Okay.
That's good.
So I did highlight a few because I apologize, I didn't know everybody's job title. So if it's not correct, we can update it, but if it's not written, if you could just let me know what that is and then I can update that. So goals and objectives, I won't necessarily read that. Did anyone have the opportunity to read it? Was there any comments?
No, look good.
Okay. Next.
Why don't we get Warren, what's your job title?
Oh, you could do it over here, sure.
What would you call me, Ken?
Call you senior-
Construction specialist, how's that?
Pretty good.
Huh?
Yeah.
So I think you guys, are you gonna vote to approve this tonight?
I think
Yeah.
we can, yeah.
Yeah. So just, you wanna get that?
Yeah, that's fair, yep, okay. Okay. And then the schedule, this was the exact same one that we presented to the board, so there shouldn't really be any changes, but, take a look if you see anything that might be missing.
Oh, I read it. It looks good.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. So then the next are the matrix, and these I don't think any of these changed from that presentation either. They do rotate to 11 by 17 and can be folded, so they're a little bit larger in a font because they do get really small. Any questions, comments on this? I think it's a good list for anybody who gets a copy of this to really understand all the folks that we did connect with, and obviously we didn't hear from all of them, but it was a good mix of different industries that we reached out to, so I think this is a good list. Okay.
What's the offer of $20,000 for both schools? What is that?
That was
Which ones?
Angela.
To do a,
Oh, they want to
appraisal,
get paid to
To
do
do
an
an
appraisal, is what that was. So maybe it should be revised to say,
Okay.
appraisers, cost of appraisal
Okay.
is 20,000.
Just because somebody reading it maybe.
Yeah.
yeah,
good
they'll
point.
offer 30. Me and you.
Yeah.
20, okay. Any other comments on this page? Okay. So then the next page, page 6, just kind of introduces the following matrix that we created for each of the schools, just to kind of explain what they show. I think what was important is the note that's written on the bottom to say these are just suggestions. There's a lot more information and detail that will need to be studied before they can just go and say, we picked this one. Obviously, there's additional follow-up and additional research that will need to be done before any decisions could be made. So I think that we needed to capture that somehow
Right.
for any new eyes looking at this report. Okay, the next one are the two matrix, one for Gildersleeve, one for Brownstone. Once again, I don't think these have changed since the presentation, so they should be okay. I know that we all kind of went through that with fine tooth comb, but if there's any additional notes that we want to capture, we can easily add those in. So we have Gildersleeve, Brownstone, and then the other was the pre-manufactured opportunity for a field house of some sort. Okay. So moving through those. Any comments on the matrix?
No,
Okay.
I don't have one.
Only that this is what we were asked to do, And so in the committee suggestion column, does it make sense to put, we have the cell or the status in the left column. Does it make sense to put the, like, develop into family homes? That's kind of the suggestion. Make that bold and get rid of the cell building to developer. I think it represents well either way. It's just a
Oh,
little
the
more
opposite,
clear.
okay.
If, you know, you could leave cell building to developer underneath the develop into single-family home, but the suggestion is develop into single-family homes, condos, or apartments, right?
Hmm?
I don't know, what do you guys think? Does it matter? It doesn't totally matter to me because you have it right there. It does say, but it's just a little bit more direct.
Okay. So that would be develop into single-family homes, that's what we want bold.
Develop-
Renovate building into retirement center, bold. Construct new retirement nursing, bold.
Well, the whole suggestion, which would be develop into single-family homes, condos, or apartments.
Okay. And then you're saying sell building to developer underneath it, but you still want that bold?
No,
No, okay.
I don't even know, I guess
Or get
that's
rid
the only place that says sell building to developer. It does say sell, but it doesn't say to developer on the left, so I guess I'd leave the words. But that's not the most important part. The most important part is the suggestion.
Okay.
But it's categorically correct, you know, so that's why I'm, you know, flip-flopping a little bit. But
Okay.
it doesn't,
So are you saying you want the headline, committee suggestions highlighted or bold? Is that what you?
no, I'm saying, instead of sell building to developer
Yeah,
being the title of that cell,
yeah,
unbold that, make
Yeah.
it smaller, put it underneath, develop into single-family homes, condos, or apartments, and make that develop into single-family homes. That's the suggestion, that should be bold.
And the cell
Do
building.
you follow me?
Yep.
yeah, now I do, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what do you think? Does it matter?
I,
It may not matter, and if it
No, I
doesn't,
think
then
it's
don't.
worthy enough to swap.
Because then, to me, when you open this up and you look at it, those suggestions will pop off the page.
Yeah.
Instead of sell building to developer, sell building to
Right.
developer.
Okay. That's easy enough. Yep. All right, so I will update slide 7 and 8. Right, because then we would follow through, obviously, with the brownstone.
right,
And I think it's good that you have the status, you know, we have the status column there,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
because that's a quick, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We're selling. What are we doing? We're keeping. What-
Yep. Okay. Any other comments on the matrix? Skipping to discussion points. I think this was helpful and, you know, a lot of our discussion didn't necessarily or have to be on the matrix. So I think capturing them and, you know, just part of the discussions that we had throughout, you know, the months that we've been meeting, I think was kind of interesting to actually read back and think, oh, right, we did talk about that, which obviously isn't covered in the matrix. I think it's helpful to still show all that was discussed.
Where does the asterisk under cost, where's that referenced?
Waiting for me to write it. because
Oh,
I-
okay.
Cost. Yes, because I mentioned, where did I put that? I had roughly, I forget if it's actually talked about. So I said, like, understanding the financial impact of each option is crucial. So we designated a ranking cost symbol for each scenario, reflecting the potential cost to the town. We recognize that further exploration and detailed analysis will be necessary to fully understand the implications of each option. Blah, 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 blah. So that's in the scenario matrix, page 6. So I can link that to that asterisk.
Yeah,
if that makes
because,
sense.
you know, people see dollar signs and they think more dollar signs, the better
Yeah.
for
right,
us.
the
Is that,
cost.
but that's,
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying here.
No, and then
We're-
maybe it needs to read cost to town or something that associates it with us and what we would typically have to, our thoughts of what we would have to pay. Maybe there just needs to be, the asterisk is fine, I can definitely link that, but I'm wondering if the title needs to be different.
Cost to town, cost. Yeah, the cost to town kind of does it. Because then if says cost to town and you see $4 signs, you think, wow, that's costing the town a lot. You see
Yeah.
$1 sign, you think, well, it's not costing the town that much.
Yeah, that would clarify.
What were you gonna say?
Oh,
All right, so I will update that column
I'll tell you
on
after.
both
Okay.
slide 7 and 8, okay? Anything else on the matrix? So obviously whatever I do to Gildersleeve would follow through onto Brownstone. So that's page 7 and 8. So back to the discussion points, obviously we could read through these, but like I said, they're just really talking points that we discussed throughout our meetings that we had that didn't necessarily, couldn't categorize on what we showed at the matrix. So there's 2 pages.
The only thing, and some very minor, is when you look at that page, that committee notes is mostly blank.
Hmm.
Does it warrant even having that, or do we put something in there?
We could fill it in, because I know, yeah, because even Brownstone, 1 out of the 4, we had notes for.
I mean, maybe just me, I mean, maybe it's not.
Well, there's some big ones on the Brownstone.
Okay.
Which I like that those are, I know that they're repeated in the report elsewhere, you know, the committee notes.
Hmm.
And maybe it's committee comments or important notes or just notes. But I like that. Can you go back to the Brownstone slide? Yeah. So those 3 notes there. Number 2, waiting 2 to 3 years may benefit interest rates, and, you know, it just pulls it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's probably the only comments or notes that we have. So I hear what you're saying.
That could go through
That can
for
go
every.
But I was just
all
gonna
every
say, is it
space.
worth just
Yeah.
having
So-
those be in the, like, merging that column to represent all 4 of those?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking, so it doesn't look like it's
Yeah.
obviously that we didn't have any comment about those other things. We did,
Yes,
but they're all
Yeah.
summarized in that one
Yeah.
box.
Because it,
Yeah. That's good. Because it is representative
of
of.
all of them.
So that works for Brownstone, it doesn't work for the Gildersleeve one,
We
because the
only got one.
Gildersleeve one is a not-for-profit developer, does not benefit the town's tax base.
But the other one still does, we still, if you look back what you wrote under Brownstone, those still have factors in Gildersleeve.
They apply to all.
They apply
So maybe
to
we
all
can
of
just
them.
combine them, separate out the not-for-profit.
And then separate out the not-for-profit.
Or just say same note as above in each cell.
Okay. All right, so I'll clean that up.
And then you could put that note in the first note under Gildersleeve, and the same thing, same note as above, same note as above. You wouldn't say same note as above here, you'd say same note as, you know.
Okay, I'll clean it up.
Same as they.
Okay. It's good comments, good feedback. All right. Anything on the discussion points? Obviously, we take up 2 pages.
I think we pretty much hit, looking at
Anything
this,
missing?
everything that came across this desk when we were, first started to every weekend, weekly guide.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's anything that was real important that we missed that might put someone at ease, or, I don't,
Okay. Yeah, and then the last page is just the conclusion of it all. Any thoughts?
just read.
Yeah, I'll give you a minute to read it.
I think it reads well.
My only comment would be to put the title of Gildersleeve and Brownstone, because those are the recommendations or suggestions, put that in the title. Gildersleeve recommendations / suggestions.
Oh, back in there, okay.
And then your conclusion that says the recommendation and suggestions outline, that's pretty clear that that's what that is,
Okay.
because it refers back to that.
Yep.
So both for Brownstone and Gildersleeve. You follow me?
Yep.
Makes sense.
Because like, if I was reading this report, not knowing anything, I would want to know what are the recommendations and suggestions, and discussion points, scenario matrices, resource connections.
And we need maybe back at the table of contents, scenario matrix underneath, right? Recommendations
Yeah.
and suggestions. In a smaller font, right underneath the matrix.
So-
Where are you?
Back on the table of contents, I think it says scenario matrices, just putting right underneath that recommendations and suggestions, so that that terminology follows through the full report.
Yeah. So, it's committee members, goals, schedule, resource connections.
And we could change that industry, I don't know what we want to necessarily call resource connections.
That's all right.
That's, I think that's.
That's understandable.
Yeah. I mean, once they get there and start reading it, you're
They'll
gonna,
get
I mean, the people that are gonna take the time to look
Yeah.
at this whole thing.
Everybody
when
in
they
the
get to-
town, right?
They'll get the, once they get there, they'll read it
Yeah.
and understand it. The people that just look at the 2 pages, they're gonna
Mhm.
Yeah, so under,
make a comment.
underneath discussion points,
Yep.
I wouldn't make it smaller, I'd make it the same
Okay.
size and just say recommendations and suggestions.
That's under the matrix, right? You're saying under the discussion points?
It's after the discussion points, isn't it? Or is it before?
It's before the drafts of the
It's page
the
7
matrix
and
are
8.
before the.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
you got it.
Okay.
Yep, my bad.
No, it's okay. So I will add that in there. All right.
I mean, it's another, just a dumb thing, but
You have to add this one.
you could put you got a lot of dumb ones, but the page,
You could tell.
You could put the
He reads
page-
Too many reports.
Page numbers?
yeah. Yeah, that's the problem.
I'll let you have that one.
Because then,
They're just
you
gonna
know,
flip through, yeah.
somebody's gonna see the recommendations, they're gonna flip right to page, not 8 or whatever it is.
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
the kicker. Oh, those are the,
Okay, I can do that. That's easy.
Do anything for Yeah.
My preference is to wait, because you can't determine, what a good, the good suggestion is without, waiting to see what the industry, happens in the industry, what happens in the town, what happens with the rates. That could determine different outcomes, and that's my opinion.
I agree with waiting, but my preference would be, you have two buildings and sell them, put them on the market the way they are, and see what the market does with it. And go from there instead of trying to, are we taking Gildersleeve down? Are we gonna hold part of Brownstone, which we realize we can't? I think it was just, here you go.
Yeah, that's.
Put it out to a bid that way.
We need to eliminate the taxpayer's burden.
Yeah.
That's it. So,
Yeah, I don't think
we should be landlords.
think
No.
keep is an option,
no.
even though it's a suggestion.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think waiting makes the most sense, because we
Mhm.
need that
Right.
space for swing
Right.
anyway, swing space for the schools anyway. I mean, I'm attracted to the hotel thing, and I have been. I think that there's something for that, if we could sell it to the right developer. You know, Gildersleeve, because it's in my, kind of in my backyard, I would like to really understand
Oh, I think getting up
the
there.
capabilities of that
Yeah.
site. I think there's a lot of land there, and if it's sold to,
Awesome
you know,
window.
senior living, kind of really holding on to the greenery that's there. I think it is a huge loss of acreage for the town when we do sell it, which I think is a little difficult for me to swallow, because like, I think we made a couple of comments, we can't buy more land, like, we
Right.
can't just make more land. So having, you know, 16 acres not be town property anymore, for the unseen things that could happen, I think that's a tough sell for me, so.
And, well, that's why I think one of the things by waiting, let's say this goes through referendum, it does pass, I mean, we're probably not looking at moving into a new building and having those totally vacant for probably 4 years from November on a good side, right? I mean, for the amount of work we gotta do. 4 is a good conservative number, I think, and then once we're out of those buildings, then put them, decide then this is what we have available. And something might change in that 4 years, we might realize, whoa, wait, we need to keep Gildersleeve, part of Gildersleeve, or some Gildersleeve, or something drastic happened, all of a sudden we're getting an influx of people moving to town, you know, or somebody wants to go in and only buy a portion of the property, and we're able to keep.
Well, that's a good point. It could be split, so you keep the back half,
Right.
and, you know, and in the 2, 3, 4 years, you know, people, it's all hearsay, you know,
Right.
talk, and somebody might decide they want it,
Right.
you know, so, with any luck.
Right.
I'm just wondering if somewhere, because, you know, when the report's submitted, I think a lot of the town is going to ask, okay, what are the recommendations? And I think that it's wise if this group who's met for so long suggests waiting, maybe putting that in, you know, at the end or something, explaining that, or, you know, I think
Or maybe that's the conclusion,
Yeah.
that could be the
Goes to
conclusion.
where we have suggestions and opportunities. The conclusion is those 3 bullets.
But just explaining why.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is in the
Yeah.
comments here.
It's in the comments, but I think if it could be added to the conclusion
Yeah,
or
makes
something.
sense.
You know, just so, because I think a lot of people are expecting to go to the polls in November and say, okay, Gildersleeve's gonna be this,
Yeah.
and Brownstone's gonna be that,
Right.
and we're not gonna be there.
No.
No.
And so explaining that, I think, in the report and why that's the case, I think would be helpful for the public to understand, you know, that we've looked at all of the options, and given the fact that where we are with interest rates, where we are, there's a lot of unknowns, that it is prudent to wait, especially while, as you said, Sean, the buildings are gonna still be schools for for at least a few more years. So, you know, a lot can change in that time, too. So that was just something, because I just think we should kind of put a bow on it, you know,
Yeah.
as far as what, you know, you guys have done such a great job compiling this together. Also, I think maybe you want to touch on the affordability of keeping all the schools. And so, you know, talking about, I don't know, if you're saying that, I would tend to agree. I don't know, you know, if we're doing this big school project, I don't know how we'd get the funds to renovate Brownstone, that's how we got into this decommission two schools thing to begin with, was because of the cost of, you know, bringing all these schools back to life.
Right.
And so, so maybe, is that something that there's a consensus from on the group, that we should sell at least part of the properties, or is it, or?
Well, I guess the concluding statement with that is, it's, in, you know, layman's terms or whatever, it's too expensive to renovate the existing schools and bring them up to a standard, or it's very expensive.
Right.
Whether or not it's too expensive, who
Well,
knows, but.
Ryan, you made the comment when we were touring the biz, and I said, why don't we keep Gildersleeve and just make that our social services hub? And you said, Sean, we can't afford $1.5 or $2 million. At this point, no, we can't. Things in 3 or 4 years might change. But it still might come down to, once the dust settled, that the best thing to do is take it off the burden of the town and transfer it into a tax, put it on the tax rolls. So I think, personally, I feel we have to wait, and I think that's the consensus here, because we have no choice, we have to wait. That's a
But
definite.
it's weight, but it's weight, but it's sell.
It's wait.
Mhm.
Right.
So the three things I'm hearing so far are, the major conclusions are, one, it's too expensive. It's, I don't like that term, too expensive, but it's too expensive to renovate the existing buildings. Two,
Not cost effective.
the recommendation is to sell the properties. Three, it's to wait to sell the properties until we don't need to use them as swing spaces, and maybe during that time, the interest rates become more favorable, and the development and the current development in the town starts to take form that will define use for Brownstone, which would ultimately make that a very valuable piece of property.
And the spa one, right, that was part of what happens when the spa opens.
We get the spa, Brainerd, there's
Right.
a lot in the next few years that are happening, so.
Yeah, no,
It's kinda
I
like
think,
that.
yeah, and I know, and I'm not saying that you have to say this is what has to happen, but I think the public's going to want to know where your minds are, you know, and I think saying, looking at the numbers of what it would cost to bring these buildings back online, it's probably not cost effective for the town to keep them, unfortunately, or
Yeah.
something to
Right.
that effect, and I think that's where, I mean, we could keep them, and I'm not saying that the report should say otherwise, it's just that looking at the cost in the long run to the taxpayers, it's definitely a barrier, for sure, I think. I mean, we're trying to keep the mill rate low, trying to provide as good of an education as we can to the children in town, and we have these old buildings at the same time and as you.
Basically sucking us dry, if you want to.
And, yeah, and does it say anywhere about just the cost of, if we were to sell the buildings, what, you know, we talked a lot about the needs of the buildings and how that would be detrimental to what the town would get for them. Is there anything in there? Because I think it
I
might,
didn't touch base really on
it might be good just to temper expectations a little bit.
Well, one
just-
thing we didn't put in here, and I know it's a small entity, but it's an entity, is our park and recs, right?
Right.
There was a comment.
There is, yeah.
Is there a comment in there?
Yeah,
Okay,
there's a
all right,
comment.
all right,
On the
okay.
But I think.
Oh, good, all right,
Right,
good.
I think somewhere we need to, maybe it's the conclusion, or I think the sightlines report
Well, there's a couple-
has to be mentioned,
There's-
even though
yeah.
it's, we all look at it on
Right.
this table differently, right? But that's something that the Board of Ed held dearly to. The Board of Selectmen read that report. Our decisions were based on, okay, we need to do things, we have to make a move with these buildings because of this report. So I think somehow referencing that as, okay, this is the information that was gathered, that Gildersleeve would cost X amount, Valley View would cost X, Biz would cost X amount, repairs needed, and worded in a way, like Ryan said, it kind of like pushes down the expectations of what these buildings are actually
Well,
But
yeah.
do we say,
I don't-
sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
Do we say, that the net zero idea is in here somewhere? You know, that the cost of, demolition and abatement is
worth.
greater than the value of the property.
I
and
think
land.
that's where the committee notes, I think you might want to add it there. You
Yeah.
might, that would help, I think, when you talk about the
Yeah.
selling and because you don't have to put that, just, I think
Well,
it,
it's good to document
since
that
you
'cause
touched
it's-
that, like, since you guys really have gone over every issue and all of it, I just want to make sure that the work that you did, it's in the report so that, people can understand. But I think that would be, the committee notes would be a good place for that.
So the second paragraph of goals and objectives, it touches base on sightlines. It doesn't call it out as sightlines. It just says, we reviewed the existing comprehensive analysis report of both properties' current conditions. The review helped us identify potential challenges such as zoning, environmental concerns, and financial implications. So I think we can, weave in the sightlines. The net zero, we can make a comment. Are we doing that in the matrix? Or do we want to add that somewhere else within here?
I kind of think it's part of the conclusion myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's good that you brought that up because that's what's gonna happen is time is gonna go by.
Hmm.
The things that we said at that meeting that aren't in here, we need to make sure are. So when somebody picks this up in November, next year, whenever, they know exactly what we were thinking. And it doesn't mean that again, it's not specific to the use. But I think it's important that it's clear, that the bottom line is it costs more to demo and abate the property than the property's worth, the building and property.
That's,
Right, and that will help what Brian was talking about to,
Yeah.
ease, get that, people say, oh, we can sell these and make all this money.
Yeah.
No, we can't.
I think you guys are spot on, putting that in the conclusion. I also think, to Warren's point, and I know it's already in there, talking about the needs of parks and recreation and all that, but I think that should go in the conclusion too, that if, it's in the final discussion points, right? Is it?
It's in.
It's in the conclusion.
Yeah.
It
I
is
thought
in the
was
conclusion?
Yeah.
I didn't know we should go into our comments over there. but-
The conclusion.
I will.
Oh, yeah, you're
So-
right. Potential loss of vital community. So never mind, that's already in there.
Yeah.
So that's
But
perfect.
if we're gonna, maybe, I like all the words on this conclusion.
Oh, it's
but
great,
Maybe
yeah.
it's the last section that we bullet point, the top.
Oh, yeah, no, I think the conclusion's good the way it is. I just think
Yeah.
it just needs like the meat of what you guys, you
Right.
know, really like want to close on.
And I agree with Ken, I think net zero, you did speak, we've talked a lot about it here. You guys put some time into it when
Right.
you gave us the presentation. And I think that's something that more people need to understand,
Yeah.
going out there. Now, like, we all know time could be on our side or against us, so that could change, but I think right from the beginning, we need to have that out there, and then at the end, say, oh, well, remember, oh, no, we never, but we said that, you know, I think it does have to come forefront.
Yeah.
So does anyone want to take ownership of writing that part of the conclusion?
Yeah, I'll do it.
I think Kristen's done enough over here.
She knew,
I don't mind getting
I know who
over
she
it,
was
though.
talking to. She wanted to say, Ken, do you want to
Thank
take
you,
over
Ken.
writing that?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right, so I can clean up the other components that we had talked about. So really truly, besides coming in and making adjustments, what are the next steps for us, Brian? Is it really kind of just, I don't know that we're ready to vote on it now. I think making the changes, sending it out, getting everybody to vote on it, and then just really handing it off to you and, okay.
Yeah, so the next part, so what I envision, it looks like, I don't know, we may need to have one more meeting, unfortunately, to actually formally vote on it. I don't think we can vote without,
Being
I don't,
face to face
you
and
know, I
talking
mean, we
about it
could,
a little bit.
you could vote pending, but, you know, you really want to, with the changes that you're talking about, you really do want to vote. It could be a very, very brief meeting, but I would like to have a final report that was approved by this committee. And then what we would do is, that report would go to the Board of Selectmen. I'd like that to go on the town website as well, so that the public can read it. I mean, you guys have worked for the past 6 months plus, you know, putting this together. So I think it's really important to get the messaging out there, especially, I mean, the timing's perfect. You guys are right in line with where we wanted to end up here. Here we are, you know, in August, finishing up. And so, yeah, I think it's at the point where the public needs to understand the, you know, what goes into all of these buildings. And they also need to be ready for the realization that, as I said, we're not gonna have an answer, a perfect answer for when they go to the polls in November. Now, I don't know how that's gonna change one way or the other, but it's the reality. And so I think the sooner that we can get that report out to explain that, the more that, you know, people, you know, can be aware of that, and you know, I'll do a good job too when people have questions. You know, having been to these meetings, I can answer where you guys, you know, came from and all that. But yeah, I think you're in good, this is great. I mean, I think it's like 95%, 99% done right now. It's just a matter of just putting that like final touch on it, touching up the couple things, and then it's ready. It's ready for the public. I'm excited for people to be able to read it too.
Yeah, I think it's good timing, because I know we originally were looking at June. I think the fact that it's now August, whatever, I think it's good because it'll be fresher for them to see before November comes. Like, I think if it would happen in June, it would have kind of gotten lost. So the fact that it got pushed off, I think it's a good thing.
I agree.
Okay, so I can work on the updates. I can, when you get the paragraph or whatever it is, I can input that, and then we can look at, we don't have to wait another month, right? We
No,
can schedule
we'll do a
meeting
special
or
meeting.
two.
So as soon as you guys are comfortable with it, we'll do a poll as far as availability. And, I mean, honestly, it would be great if we can get, you know, I'd love a unanimous vote on the final report. I think
Right.
that would be ideal. But I know everybody's, you know, very busy and stuff. So we'll see what works for everybody, and hopefully we'll get we'll definitely get a quorum. And then we'll get the vote, and that's it. And your charge is complete, and you guys, next time the phone rings, you probably won't answer.
All right, so then we just had open for public comment.
I am public.
Yes, you are.
My son, Brady, do you have any comment? Go ahead.
As I sit here and I'm thinking about
So Sharon, do you mind coming up to the, so
I
they
do.
can they get you, we want to get you on the, because it's a recording, sorry.
I don't even know, I'm not even sure if I can put this in words. Can I just tell who I am?
Yeah, please, yeah.
Sharon Hoy. I have a question regarding the cost of decommissioning the schools and if we have to demolish them, and how, has there been a cost comparison of what that would cost? And also factored into that, the cost of building the new school compared to just upgrading the schools that we have. And one of my thoughts is, and I know Mike Hernandez has a big concern about having all the children in one location. And I go back to some of the citizens that had the same concern. So I think we need to think about what we're doing and what is the cost of decommissioning the schools, possibly tearing them down or selling them or keeping them, we don't really know. And also factor into that, in addition to that, the cost of building a new school compared to just upgrading the schools that we have and keeping the children in different locations. I know that's a concern of a lot of citizens, you know, having them all in one, especially with the crazy things that are happening in this world right now.
Great question. The first part of your question's on looking at the cost of demolishing the schools as a, that would be something that this committee did look at. But the second half of your questions are really questions for the Board of Education and the Board of I mean, I can speak to it because I know why. I mean, the Board of Education looked, and it was a facility study committee, another committee that looked at the cost of just upgrading the schools. And you could upgrade the schools, and most likely that's Plan B. But with that, you have a lot of kids all over the place. And I think the thought was back in 2000, 2003, when they did the last major renovation, they added the middle school on High Street. They added a brand new school, but nothing was closed. And so now you have all these schools, and enrollment is steady, if not declined slightly. And so you have a lot of empty space between all these buildings. And so when the state, unfortunately, doesn't look at fixing up buildings as preferably as they do it building new, and they give a lot more money to towns to build brand new schools than they do to fix up the schools that they have. And so that's what happened here, is when you look at a cost of a project that's $68 million, that's what the cost of the new school is, and half of that would be covered by state grants. All of a sudden, it's actually more economical, or it could be, to build new or renovate to new than it is to keep all those buildings. And also, the Board of Ed, I know Dave will probably make the point, when you consolidate schools, you're going to get overhead savings. You're going to get that consolidation. You're not going to need as many school nurses, as many gym teachers, as many principals. And there is savings in that. There's heating, energy savings with that, with the consolidation. But you touch on a lot of good points that this committee's talked on, and there's definitely a cost to decommissioning schools, and there's a cost to, the problem is, it's expensive. The reason why we're here is because it's expensive to keep and maintain those buildings, and especially when the state doesn't give you any money to do it, or a lot less money.
But I think the problem to the public is there's so much information and it's very fragmented. So how can you put all of these different parameters concisely so that the public can understand all of the things that you just explained to me? I get it. I get it that you want to get more grants and get more money, and that makes sense, but does the public realize all of these things that factor into it? I don't think they do.
Well, I have to, excuse me for jumping in here, we've done a lot of this work Dr. Burton had informational sessions. We put together actually a website connected to, I think it's the town, it's not the schools, that lays out this whole process, everything that was considered, all the facts, all the rationale on why we would want to do this versus this. So it's it maybe hasn't gotten to some people because they're not as involved or engaged. And now they're coming up to the point for a referendum and they're kind of looking for more information. They're call Dr. Britton, or we can definitely get you there. The information is there in a concise form.
It is there, but this has been going on for so long. How can people remember? You know, because
Yeah.
you were
Involved.
intimately involved. These guys know because you've been intimately involved.
But these guys, this isn't, what you're talking about is not like
Yeah.
the chart,
It's
like
beyond
this
this
is
committee.
just, what do you do if it passes with the buildings?
I
That's-
understand that, but
yeah.
I'm thinking of the public. And I think there's a lot of information that is very fragmented that they need to be pulled together and made more concise so that they, when they go to the polls, I think they need to understand more fully, and I don't think they do at this point.
No, yeah, but that's why we have this report. That's exactly, you're 100% right. So this report is a piece of that puzzle to educate the town in form of the options available and what makes the most sense likely going forward if we do get this referendum question passed. So there's a lot, and there is going to be more informational material coming out before we've kind of had a little bit of a lull over the summer. This committee's wrapping up their work, and I know there's going to be more information on what the bonding entails. We just found out our reimbursement rate went up from 49% to
that.
51%.
56.
Well, it's 51% now,
Oh.
but if you add the, I guess there's.
Open choice.
Open choice would additionally bring in potentially 5 more percentage points of reimbursement. That would bring it to 56% of the 68 million or some odd. And so, yeah, I think you're 100% right, Sharon. This is not the conclusion of that piece. This is only meant to conclude to the public what do you do with those buildings, and that's.
No, I understand that. I'm more concerned about the public understanding the whole thing by the time they go to the polls.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, but I will say it's August 19th, and so we have, that's my job to inform the public. It's Dr. Britton's job, it's the Board of Education's job, and it's the Board of Selectmen's job. So hold me to it on Wednesday at our Board of Selectmen meeting. How about that? You know what I mean? I think for now, I think this is.
But by the flip side, though, is there's been articles in the River East. There's been communication sent out on email.
I
So I'm just
know, but you
saying,
know what? People
if
don't
you don't
do that
understand,
anymore.
someone doesn't
People aren't
understand, they
paying-
should be reaching out, hey, can you give me the abridged version? And we would do that.
People aren't paying attention. People don't read newspapers I'm not talking about everybody, but they don't read newspapers like they used to.
Yeah.
And people have to see things at least 3 times before it sinks in. So you guys, Ryan has an awful lot of work to do to get the public to understand this whole thing. I guess that's my main concern, that when people go to the polls, they know what they're voting when they see that question on the ballot, and they don't say, oh gee, I don't really know what this means, but they put it on the ballot, so it must be good for the town, so I'll just say yes, not
It
knowing
doesn't necessarily
fully.
mean, no, we put a question on the ballot because we want the town to vote on it. To be honest, I don't want to speak for the entire Board of Selectmen, but I mean, this is a big decision, and this is, as, you know, myself, I don't even have children in the school system, right, you know, and so to be asked what to do, you know, for the schools for the next 20, 30 years or whatever, I felt it was above my pay grade, and I think Sean would attest to that too. I mean, so we're thinking, let's ask the public. That's why we did a survey in the beginning, because at every step of the way, we want to know what the public thinks, and there's no ultimate test of the public than a ballot question, so that we did the best we could.
I guess my concern is the public may not be paying attention until it impacts them with their taxes.
Well,
And they're
I
gonna find
can't
out
help that.
that would
Yeah.
the water, with other things, is impacting their taxes more than what they ever thought.
Well,
What's
on the flip side, though, if we do nothing, their taxes are gonna get impacted as well.
Oh, no,
Because we gotta do something.
What's,
I realize that.
What does the ballot question look like? Like, how do you?
I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I
but
know.
It's shall the town bond X amount of money for, or appropriate the funds for the renovate to new Valley View Elementary School to make it a pre-K to grade 5 school, something to that effect. And I think it's this full 68 million we put as the price tag. So
Right.
even though, and Sharon's 100% right, there's a lot of education and informational stuff. It's summertime, people aren't paying attention right now, but as we get into September, and that's really when we're gonna have
And I guess
more
that's my
material.
concern. Time marches on, and right now, it's racing on to November.
No, okay, I mean, like I said, we got.
Well, and the question is how, if people aren't reading the newspaper, I mean, there's emails that go out, there's meetings that go out, there's YouTube videos that you can watch after the fact. Like, I don't know how else to reach out to the community.
I
so
don't
that-
know, yeah.
We've been
Right?
trying
I
that for
mean,
3
I-
years.
Some you just
now.
never
Well,
going to.
well,
Some
that's
like
what's so
my
frustrating.
I mean, we have
Have to rent the
education
billboard on the
here.
bridge.
This is a public
Until they
meeting,
get the
and
tax
you've seen,
and the-
so we sent out a postcard
Right.
I
to
got the
every,
postcard, yeah.
we sent, Sharon, did you fill out the survey when it came to your house on the
You
schools?
bet I did.
So
Yeah,
you
all
were
the
one of
information in
1,000 people that did that, but every single registered voter had a postcard mailed to them at their house. And out of 6,800 registered voters, we got 1,000 of those returned. And that's what's challenging, and that's, I think, Sean will attest, it's frustrating because we want the public's input, we want to inform the public, and so, you gotta be mindful that people have very busy lives,
That,
and,
you hit it. That's what bothers me, because there's so many things coming in. People have so many balls in the air, and are they paying attention? And I don't know how you get them to pay attention. I guess that's,
well, that's why we're putting these, and they're recorded on YouTube, so that there's a history of all these meetings, the public, and I'm sure as we get closer to November, there's gonna be a lot more interest in all of this work, and that's why it's so important that we have a record, and I can put the link onto, social media, so people can watch these meetings, and they can see all the work that
That
was
would be
put
good.
into this. So I got these guys are off the hook. It's up to me and Sean.
Cheerlead me,
So, but you're 100% right, Sharon. So that's a good
Thank
segue.
you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Appreciate your comments.
And so I'll just wrap up the public comment, because I know I guess there's one more meeting, but I do want to just thank every one of the volunteers on here that signed up for this. Kristen, for taking over the chair. I know you put hours of work into this.
Thank you.
And, and
Well, I appreciate
it shows. I mean, honestly, this is a professional looking report. This is going to be very informative and helpful for the town. And when people do pay attention, there's something that's substantial for them to read. And I really want to thank all of you for your time. I know you're busy people. You all got careers, and so the town, I'm grateful, the town is grateful. And I just want to say thank you all for your work on this.
Thank you, Ryan, appreciate that. Thank you all, I was happy to be here. This was, when I came in, I was a little shocked, like, what am I signing up for? This? Oh, I'll be the chair, what does that mean? So appreciate it, and I couldn't have done it without the support of all of you, so I'm very appreciative of the experience. I've learned a lot, so thank you for that.
And thank you to Brian and Angela. They're not
Yes,
here, but they've
right.
helped out
Yes,
so much.
agreed. All right, any other thoughts? All right, I make a motion to adjourn. at
Second?
7:29. Any opposed?
No?
All right, thanks all, have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Go home.
I gotta go hit end on the meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Gotta go now?
I gotta end
Oh.
the meeting.
It's gotta end the meeting, it's recording stuff. Thank you, Ryan.